Hello, everybody. I'm Rob Watson. My kind of background is doing. I used to be an academic at De Montfort University, but I went freelance the other year, a couple of years ago. Um, I had enough of being inside like a big sausage machine, churning out people doing qualifications. And kind of the work I do is based around community media. So the idea that what community media is media that like this in a way. This is a form of community media. I think it's anything that brings us together as a group of people who have either got a topic of interest or an issue of something that you identify with, a place, that kind of thing. And the difference between community media and say social media is, and it doesn't matter what platform you use. I'm completely agnostic about what forms of media we use. It can be anything. Um, the difference though between social media and community media, I think it's that with social media, if I put my head out my window and shout into the street, nobody's obliged to get back to me in any way, and nobody ever seems to on my social media feeds. Somebody might shout back, shut up, that kind of thing, but there's no obligation there for anything. Whereas with community media, there's a sense of accountability and responsibility to one another. So when we're on a call like this together, we're participating and we've agreed a set of, if you like, rules, which are being respectful to each other, acknowledging each other's differences, thinking in ways which are how we getting the best out of this as individuals and as a group. So that's different from the way that our media is normally considered. So if you look at the kind of corporate big commercial companies and the BBC, what you often get is a kind of top-down approach where the BBC knows best. The BBC decides what people should be listening to, and then you used to never have any choice, because when I was your age, there was kind of like 4 channels and that was it. Now there are zillions of channels, and in fact, I can't remember the last time I watched anything on the BBC. The only stuff I watched recently was RuPaul's Drag Race. I don't listen to the news on the BBC anymore. I don't listen to the radio anymore. Why am I paying my license fee? You can get what you want on YouTube. And so it's all changed. And there's been a communications revolution in the meantime. The commercial stuff is kind of, I pay a subscription to Netflix and I get kind of what I want most of the time, some of the time. But you pay for that separately. So there's a space for people to make their own media, which is about telling our own stories, sharing our own experiences, and coming up with things which say who we are and what we're about. Now, if I subscribe to Netflix, I'm never going to find any. I'm based in Leicester. There's nothing on Netflix which is designed for Leicester. Whereabout are you guys based? Are you from all over the place or in just one particular place? Feel free to
I'm
shout at me about. Go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah. I'm in Loughborough right now, but I used to live in Leicester for like about 2 years.
Right. Okay. So we're kind of East Midlands, Leicestershire based, that kind of thing. Where do you turn on the TV? You get maybe 15 minutes on the BBC that has something. Do any of you listen to BBC Radio Leicester? Well, I wouldn't be surprised if you. I'd be very surprised if you did. It's kind of it's a station that's designed for over 70-year-olds. Really, you might listen to the football commentary or the rugby commentary, that kind of thing. But there's not much else that's certainly designed for young people. So my kind of background is that years ago when I was at De Montfort, we set up Demon FM was the student radio station, and we set it up as a full-time community radio station because we felt that there was a need for 2 things. One, for people to get skills so that you could kind of learn what radio was about, and 2, it was a platform for people to talk about things that they're interested in, share the kind of music that they're interested in. And if I asked you what kind of music represents Leicester, I'd find it really difficult now to kind of nail down what it is that represents musically. What vibe would you say Leicester was about? You might go to Manchester and know what the vibe for music is there. You might go to Sheffield and know what there's some kind of music scene there. But Leicester's not on the it's not on the top of the pile when it comes to innovative music. Bristol or Brighton and places like that kind of seem to be people's first port of call for these things. So there's a space, there's a gap there for, if you like, a kind of platform for what we can do with our media. That I think it's about people doing it for themselves, that DIY kind of ethic. And one of the crucial things about this is, okay, finish this sentence. If you got the chat, let's get the chat box up. We'll do it. Okay, this is a really first thing that comes. Yeah. Oh, there's the centre of the Colville, the centre of the Northern Selden rave scene. Wasn't that a long time ago? You're showing your age, saying I used to go to rave nights in Colville. You get the bus over from Leicester and the Emporium. Yeah,
the Emporium, you see, I've been, Colville is the centre of this whole scene of music, and people in Leicester and Nottingham know Colville because of that.
Yeah.
And that's partly because of its position between the Birmingham and London DJs.
But is that still going?
The Emporium is still going. In fact, I'll share a video that we did about that a couple of years ago. Okay, the reopening of the Passion Night. You probably were there on the opening of Passion Night.
I gave up my clubbing a long time ago. So I was going to ask a question. If something's worth doing, finish this sentence. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing. What's the word that most people normally put in there? First one to kind of be. It's always interesting to see what the different kind of responses are. Just who's the first one who's going to type something into the chat box. If something's worth doing, it's worth doing. It's not a trick question. There we go. Well, everybody always says well, and I always say no, badly. And everybody looks shocked. Why would you want to be doing something badly? It's like, well, you've got to learn somehow. You've got to start somewhere. And if it's too slick, if it's too professional, then you never learn and you never move on. If you don't learn and you don't get better as you're doing it and as you're practicing, then we'll find you something else to do. But if you do get better, you improve by doing things. And sometimes the kind of professional way that people talk about who's on a media course, is anybody thinking about doing a media course or studying a media course? Now that I don't have to teach and recruit students to a media course, I don't have to give you the spin, if you like. Often I think courses are sold on the basis of giving you a load of skills that nowadays you can probably learn off YouTube, and also that you probably will get locked into a very narrow range of jobs that you want to do. Whereas if you're trying to learn in different things and trying out different things, how do you find out what you're good at? How do you find out what you're interested in? If you don't have the opportunity, as I think, as was said earlier, it was to just make some mistakes and to just do it badly and to get better at doing it. So a lot of the stuff I tend to do is based around trying to develop people's skills and confidence to kind of have a go. I'm going to ask Ben, because Ben, you've been identified as a filmmaker within the group. It's the first time I've met you all, so apologies for picking you out. What got you into being filmmaking? What is it about that you saw that you think you can be good at doing that? Is it two Bens as well, by the way? I can see two Bens on my. Which one's the filmmaker? Give us a wave. If you. All right, okay. Ben Wood, go on. What's the thing about being a filmmaker?
Well, it actually started with photography, believe it or not. I looked on some guy called Peter McKinnon on YouTube, and I just loved that kind of hardcore vintage style type of stuff, and I absolutely love vintage, like love it to bits. And I saw how much he was doing filming and different little it's called B-roll, which is kind of like a compilation of cinematic shots, and I absolutely love that. So I got a job, bought the cheapest, crappiest camera ever, tried to do it, and I couldn't do it. But now with this, I'm saving up for a really good camera, and I'm gonna carry on with that. But what fits what you were saying best is me doing digital art on Photoshop. I could not do it. I simply could not do it at all, and now I'm just absolutely brilliant at it, and I love doing it. I've even got to try a deal with the company just because I've got my head down and done it.
So it's kind of finding that thing, isn't it, that we do. So I'm going to share the screen for a second because I'll share my my website, which isn't a very well designed website. In fact, it's a badly designed website, and it's kind of deliberately badly designed because I think these things should be as accessible as possible. So it's just it's a WordPress site. Now I host it rather than it being one of the free WordPress ones like WordPress.com. But this is a site I host. All I really put to it, I've got every now and again I'll do some blogs. Every now and again I'll do a podcast, and every now and again I'll do a vlog where I kind of sit around and I'll put the link to it in the chat if anybody wants to look at it. It's nothing special here, and I kind of work on the basis that if I can make this audio and this video content, then pretty much anybody can. And I don't see myself as having any special skills. I've just been around the block a couple of times where I've learned a few tips and tricks. And I think that's the crucial thing. And now learning from other people and sharing and engaging with other people is really, really useful. So I have a Twitter feed. I have an Instagram account. I actually have two websites. Let me bring up the other one. So I have a work one and a personal one, which allows me, the personal one just allows me to kind of play around a little bit more. And one thing I've been doing recently is I've got a program on Leicester Community Radio to do a sound walk. And it's like kind of, it doesn't fit in with the format driven nature of the station, but on community radio, you can kind of largely do whatever you want. As long as you stay within the broadcasting rules. So I've done this is about 10, 12 of them I've done now, where I kind of walk around Leicester with my microphone and just record sounds of the city and things. That the other week, a friend, it's going out on another radio station as well, Sound Art Radio down in Devon, and they kind of do art-based stuff. I'm no good at this. I mean, there's people out there who are really amazing sound recordists and sound designers and creative with the music and everything like that. It's just me wandering about, putting a few kind of thoughts and observations there. But I'm hoping that what I'm showing in the process is that each time I do it, I'm getting slightly better and I'm moving it forward slightly. So it's about kind of not just taking the media that we're fed, that we're given, that kind of the convenience media approach. So there's a lot of podcasts that you can on the site that I've posted, which is about community media and kind of asking questions about that as well. So if you want to kind of take a look at them, feel free. But it's kind of like, if you think about our mass media, it's designed to be easy to consume. It's designed for us to just press that button and there we get 13 series of RuPaul's Drag Race on Netflix, and I'm working hard. I've finally got into it and I'm like halfway through it now, but it's like this constant stream of bubblegum and pop. It's not really, it's okay when you're tired and you don't want to watch anything else, but it kind of, it's designed to be very convenient. So this is kind of convenience media that's designed to be easily consumed, like when you go into a supermarket and all you can find is crisps and pop and sweets, that kind of stuff. That's ready meals. And I don't eat ready meals. I gave up eating processed food. So it's like processed media. Somebody else is telling you what to think. Well, what about if you are creating your own media? What about if you were setting up your own podcast? What about if you're setting up your own YouTube channel where you share your own films? And you have what I think is really useful is, don't think of this in terms of, I mean, first of all, don't try and fit in with what other people's expectations are of you. Try and figure out what it is that you want to say yourselves. And that takes some time to get some confidence about doing that. But also don't talk about what you are interested in. talk about not just what you care about, but what you care for. Now, there's a difference between the two. So if you're talking about what you care about, well, I care about penguins, and I care about David Bowie, and I care about, I don't know, the Beatles. It's great, but none of that I do in a kind of active kind of way, other than, you know, looking at pictures of, actually it's cats, isn't it? You know, on Instagram, it's kind of looking at pictures of cats in boxes, that kind of thing. I care about that, but I don't have a cat, so I don't care for a cat. So when you're thinking about what you're going to talk about with your media and what you're going to share, try and think about, well, what is it that I actually care for? Who do I care for? So you're thinking about the place that you're from. You're thinking about the people that you're part of a community, a family, a network with. And then you're thinking about the active contribution that you make in that. So it's a different way of thinking about the kind of media that you're going to share and you're going to use, rather than it being something which is imitating what the convenience and process driven mass media give us. Actually, this matters because this is about you and your lives, not about what some executive in London or in New York thinks you should be interested in. It's about how great or how crummy your life experiences are. And I live in the middle of Leicester. It's a dump. It really is. It's a dump. And some of the photos I share on Leicester, I'm going to share these actually. I mean, I've been here for over 20 years now, so I must like it in some way. But, you know, you're kind of thinking, I wish there we go. So I'm kind of thinking, I must like it in some ways. Why do I like it? And I do a bit of street photography as a kind of pastime. And you know, it's kind of, as you walk around, you kind of get to see the city in a different way. Ooh. And you start to kind of pick out some of the characters, but it's not a healthy place to live. It's, you look at the figures, the public information about Leicester. It's a kind of it's a working class city. Lots of people who are in very low paid jobs. Lots of people who don't speak English as their first language. Lots of people who are disabled. This is taking a long time to load up. I don't know why. It's normally quicker than this. Lots of people who, you know, just come from kind of different backgrounds and have different. But I didn't want to give it the spin of the marketing campaign. You know, the glossy brochures that the council want. I saw one of the universities published a tweet online that I saw the other day, and it was like, Leicester's rated as one of the top 3 places for student experience. And the row of shops that they showed, with all these people kind of wandering about in the sunshine, all of those shops have now closed. And they're not, you know, they've not just closed for the pandemic and the lockdown, they've shut permanently. It's like Pizza Express, it's gone. And yet the marketing model still sells it on that basis. So you know, a bit more honesty, a bit more realism, say these are the immediate issues. That works both ways though. I think I'm very good at highlighting some of the problems. And what is also nice to have the opportunity to do is to celebrate some of the joy that we get from our lives in our communities, if you've got that. So it's both ways, but you don't have to do it in a way which is like ticking the boxes or imitating a Gap advert, you know, or an Instagram influencers feed where everything looks amazing. And then you realize it's all fake because they've edited out all of the other Instagram influencers who were sitting around taking the same kind of photos. You know, though, you've seen them loads of times, haven't you? You know, the kind of the fakies where somebody goes and sits on a terrace overlooking a resort overlooking the Mediterranean at sunset. And then when you stand back and look the other way, there's thousands of other people sitting there having the photo taken. That kind of fake it till you make it kind of stuff. And it's like, well, there's things that we can do to capture what we do, what it's about. And the interesting thing now is that when you look back, You know, at your age now, go out and capture what's around, because it won't be there forever. The sound walks I'm doing now really illustrate the sounds of the traffic in Leicester. But in 5 years' time, it will be largely dominated by electric cars, and the noise of petrol engines may have gone. And we might be sitting there, in 10, 15 years' time, you might be explaining to your kids or your partners, brothers and sisters, kids, whatever, that this is what a diesel engine was like. You know, this is what it used. The buses used to sound like this. And if we don't capture this as we go along and share it, then we're not in a, we're losing something. So our media is a kind of way of sharing our experience. And it's a way of, one I'll finish off because I can talk for hours and I'm not sure where I'm going with this. But one thing we do say, which is really useful, it's not about opinions. I'm sure each of you have got opinions about something. Some of you will be more prepared to talk and vocalize and express your opinions than others. But you know what? Nobody's interested. Nobody's interested in my opinions. But if you talk about your experience, that's a completely different matter, because that's your story. That's what it is that makes you unique and enables other people to figure out who you are, because nobody can take your experience away from you. Everybody, we can have we can be combative with our opinions, and social media brings this out in people, that sense of indignation that it promotes, the twitching of the net curtains and the shaking of the newspaper. This is terrible. But when you talk about relate a story through somebody's experience, and you ask, what was it like to grow up in Colville? What was it like? What's it like to be growing up in Loughborough now? And it's hard to find the words. But the more we tell these stories and the more we share our experiences, I think the more that we're going to understand each other, and the more that we're going to be able to come up with some creative solutions, rather than simply waiting for a journalist to fly in, do a couple of vox pops and fly out again. And it might get on the 10 o'clock news as some kind of, weird, this is the opinion that we found in Melton Mowbray one day. And it's like, well, where did they pick the oddest people in the town at that particular time? There's loads of expressions of opinion out there, but what really resonates with people when you're listening to things is people talking about their experience. So kind of focus what you're doing on that. How does that sound? I think we're 26 minutes. That's not too bad, is it? There's probably a lot more I could talk about.
You've obviously rehearsed that really well, Rob.
Oh, I have it I have it in my head all the time. It's like always like a pot of coffee percolating away, ready to go.
I think that's a brilliant place to end. So that is
Thank you.
Fantastic advice, Rob. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
We shall be turning that into a film, Ben will, and I'm sure there'll be opportunities if you don't mind coming back. And about other topics.
Do give us a shout, and I'll make sure it's in my diary properly.
We'll start with the co-op, and we'll invite you to the walk and other things that we do in Colville. But cool. Hopefully you've given lots of inspiration to the guys. So if you want to unmute and say something, or put up a signal, whatever you want to do, and then we'll have a quick break, and then we've got Graham from Nug News joining us.
Brilliant.
We're having an afternoon of amazing people to inspire.
Yeah, go make sure you have your 10-minute break. You can't be on Zoom for the rest of your lives. Yeah, don't have a
brilliant. Thanks, Rob.
And Harry won the competition for having the cat crawling across the screen. That was really good. I enjoyed that. So
you've actually never done that before, so
you get extra points for that.
I did put a link to the Emporium video. Oh, sorry, Harry.
Yeah, normally just goes outside, but today he's been very whiny. Clearly wants attention. Sorry, I didn't remember my lap for a bit, and then we just got to do that.
Right, I'll go make myself a cup of tea and watch the video. Take care.
Yes, the Emporium. Bring back some memories. Bye.